Mahalakshmi Dhyana.
My right side up. And I know there, but sometimes on the camera you can see. Okay. Okay. Straight. Okay. Jai Ma. Chant together. Om Mangalam Gurudevaya Devye Matriksha Mangalam Mangalam Bhakta Brindebhyo Sarvalokaya Mangalam Om Stapakaya Chadarmasya Sarvadharma Sarupine Avatara Varishtaya Ramakrishnaya Mangalam Om Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Ashmarachara Prayantam Vande Gurum Paramparam Om Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurudevo Maheshwaraha Gurureva Param Brahman Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Shri Ganesha Sharada Gurubhyo Namaha Jai Ma Jai Ma. So continuing, today is a very auspicious day. It's we're on Ashtami, the 8th day of the month of Chaitra, which is the and this is we're in the middle of what we call Chaitra Navaratri, or also known as Vashant Navaratri, the spring Navaratri. So these 9 nights, the one in the fall has become more famous, of course. It's a very ancient tradition. But the second most popular is this one. There's also 2 other Navaratris, one in the summer and one in the winter. They call them Gupta Navaratris, hidden. Most people don't follow. There's some sadhaks and tantrics who are doing extra sadhana and fasting on those days. But right now so this is the 8th day. Ashtami and Navami are the most auspicious days for the goddess during this very auspicious 9-night festival. And tomorrow is Navami, the 9th day. But this is also Ram Navami, the birth can say birthday, the Advent anniversary of Lord Ramachandra. Very auspicious. So it's a very holy season we're in. And we've been reading last few months, maybe longer, I don't know, from Swami Vivekananda's Bhakti Yoga, small book. The version I'm reading right now, slightly edited, called the Yogas and Other Works by Vivekananda, edited by Swami Nikhilananda. And then it's in the complete works, and also you have it in the in the separated Bhakti Yoga. That's also very nice form, Bhakti Yoga and Raja Yoga and Karma Yoga together, right? Yeah. And so we're actually towards the end, where I think we'll finish. I thought we finished last time, but I always think I'm going to do more than I can. And right now so Swamiji's, he starts out with very broad things about what bhakti is, what the focus of bhakti, what bhakti means, what type of devotion it is, and then what the focus of bhakti must be. And then very quickly he talks about the different principles of Bhakti Yoga, but then flies into Parabhakti. That's been his discussion of the Supreme Bhakti. And now he's mentioning, I think a couple of weeks ago we did the famous triangle of love, the real nature of love, which is, maybe remember what they are? Three. No what? No bargaining, no love knows no bargaining, love knows no fear, love knows no fear, and love knows no rival, right? So then last week we talked about, we didn't finish, it's the title of the chapter is called Human Representations of Divine Love. So it's an interesting title, and this is the different relationships we can develop with God in order to develop devotion, or either we can develop this relationship to develop devotion, or out of devotion these relationships develop. And especially in the Vaishnava Tantras, this is mentioned, and it's called the Panchabhavas, the 5 moods. And we went through some of them. We went through 4 of them, I think. Remember what they were? Test. No.
Shanta.
So good. Right person.
Vatsalya.
Shanta, Vatsalya.
Dasya.
Dasya.
Sneha.
And yes. Yes. Or here Shakya. Sneha means friendship, but here it means Shakya. Sakya means also friend, right? So actually, usually it starts with Shanta. If the problem is that they're stratified, right? And Swami Vivekananda also stratifies, and traditionally they're stratified, but it's not exactly like one's lower and higher. Just the levels become more intense, right? So that's how they're stratified, You have
to think about the degrees of madness.
So yes, that's a perfect. Swamiji says that there are degrees of madness, right? So like the Shanta Bhava is that of I love God. God's everywhere. I'm surrendered. Everything's peaceful, right? He describes it as that the rishis had such a relationship with God, right? In the forest, just they're in union with God or remembrance of God. We can almost think like the transcendentalists in this country, something like that, that they have an experience, but the relationship is not agitated. It's just like full satisfaction and this relationship with God. And so that's not, we can't say, the problem with you is you only have Shanta Bhava, right? You need, so we shouldn't use that as a sectarian thing. As these are lower, you're a fool, oh fool. There's text like that, oh fool, give up Shanta Bhava. Not like that, right? This is so, but it's not. It's defined by non-emotional intensity, by peaceful acceptance and satisfaction and in the blissful experience of God, right? And then it was what was the second one? Sakya, I think. Is it? I want to get the orders right. Dasya. No, it's next text. So Swami only gives one sentence to Dasya, but this is that of a servant. You can see a servant. That's I have to serve. There's agitation in that, right? And then, of course, the examples of this are always given. We've mentioned it, and I mention it because in the traditional literature, whenever the Panchabhavas are mentioned, they always give examples of it. So the great example of the Dasya Bhav is Hanuman, right? Hanuman is only serving God, but you can't say that Hanuman was only in Dasya Bhav. Hanuman had all the bhavas, right? But generally we think it is an example of Dasya Bhava. And none of us have only one Bhava. It's not the way it works either. But so Hanuman is the example of a servant of God. But part of the servant of God, so much love, you want to serve your Lord, your master. Thakur said that, oh, you are the Lord, I am your master. And this is actually the thing is that Ramakrishna says that the ego is like a ashwata tree, right? He uses ashwata, right? Which ashwata means banyan tree, right? In the Gita, the whole world is described as a banyan tree, upside down banyan tree, right? We've been doing a little bit of research and writing on this banyan tree idea of the world, but the banyan tree, ashwata means not lasting, right? But in the Gita, Krishna says this ashwata tree, which means not lasting, temporary, is eternal. So it's a very common, the eternal, unlasting tree. So that's, many commentaries have been written. Generally, we understand that mean that the world of Maya is always here, but it's not real, in the sense that it doesn't last, right? I mean, the world's always here, but nothing in it lasts, right? That that's one way to look at it. But the nature of so the ego is also like the Sri Ramakrishna describes the ego like an ashwata tree, right? So what happens? You can easily cut down a tree. Even the Gita, Krishna says, take the sharp weapon of discrimination and cut down once in a while this tree. But the problem, you cut down ashwata, what happens? It immediately grows back, right? That's why it's eternal. Even if you cut it down, it keeps coming back, right? So Sri Ramakrishna he says that since the ego won't go away, he uses the equivalent of a bad word. It's something in English like a jackass, right? Let the jackass be a devotee. Right, inshallah, I think, right? This term has many ways to translate it, right? But Thakur had a bit of edgy language. But he says, since the ego won't go, right, let it be a devotee. He said, if it develops, so he says, develop the servant eye, or the eye of knowledge, or the eye of wisdom. It's like, so he says that, oh, I'm a devotee, I'm a servant of God. God's the master, and I'm the servant. That is still ego, but it can't do much damage. Right. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of people who claim to be devotees that do a lot of damage. There's a danger in religion in the hand of, but you know what I mean. Generally, as in our personal struggles of spiritual life, not political movements based upon religious ideals. That's a different thing, right? In our personal struggle with spiritual life, it's like the ego won't go away. Let it be a devotee, right? So dasya bhav. But there's a danger, not a danger. There's a drawback as people who are trying to develop complete focus on God and complete forgetfulness of self and only worshiping God, completely selfless, and still there seems to be some roughness to the devotee idea, the sevak idea, the dasya idea, because still you think, why do I need to? Well, I have to serve God. Why? Because otherwise, it's like, I'm important. I have to serve. I'm a servant, right? And of course that's not ego to say I'm a servant of God. It's ego, but it is a certain type of ego, right? But also thinking, oh, God needs me, right? There's still something to that, right? So and it comes knowledge. Oh, it also has knowledge of God as being great, right? So with this Ashwarya quality of God. Thank you, dear. Must mean I need water. And so, and Sri Ramakrishna many times said that this knowledge of God's greatness, or the idea of God's greatness, oh my God, we joked last time, oh God, how huge you, gosh, you're huge, right? That's scene from Monty Python, right? That, and therefore I need to serve you. There's some fear, some awe, some reverence is mixed into the dasya. Not necessarily, I mean, we can be servants without that idea of God's greatness, right? But still, it's implied that God's great, and my greatness is attached. So there's some ego to it, that I'm great because I'm serving him, and also I'm serving him because he's great, right? Serve the greatest, serve the absolute, so it's not love for love's sake, is one of the Thakur's, Swamiji's definition of love for love's sake, right? But anyway, so that's the dasya bhav. Then the sakya bhav, that of friendship. Friendship is more intimate. In friendship, even if you're friends with the king, if you're friends with the president, or if you're friends with a very powerful person, still in the friendship there's equality, right? Friendship comes when you're not so conscious of their greatness. You're conscious of their normalness, as your devotion increases, your intimacy increases, your experience increases. The greatness may still be there, but that's not important, right? If your parents, your mother or father may be a very powerful person, and thousands of people may shake thinking of them, right? But at home, even if you kind of know, oh yeah, he's a very powerful person, they have a powerful job, right? That he could, if he wanted to, he could, do something very, can change people's lives, right? But at home, you develop a relationship of intimacy. You forget those things, even if it's true, right? So this is considered because this is considered more intense, more intimate because of the intimacy. There's less. It's not based on, oh my God, you're very powerful and my identity is to serve you. That's true, but out of friendship, out of love, you become not equal. That's impossible, but the feeling of equality is there. We gave many examples last week, but even Krishna's playmates, they'd wrestle him to the ground, right, and say, "Get out of this one," and he couldn't, right? I mean, he would. Of course, he could. Right, but he didn't. That's the beautiful thing. So obviously he could, but he couldn't because otherwise he would. Because of his reciprocation, out of their love for him, then he became weak, seemingly, right? And when a powerful person becomes weak, right, but not really weak, what is that? That's great humility, right? And so we become humble in front of God. We realize we are intimacy, but God also becomes humble to the devotee. Right, he takes such a, in the classic example of the friendship is that of Arjuna, we mentioned last time, right? But at a certain time, he actually apologized. Oh my God, I've called you my friend. When he saw the universal form, then he goes, oh my God, please forgive me, right? But he should nothing to forgive, right? That was actually overwhelmed by the universal form. He prayed to have the form that he's accustomed to, right? But then he says, you are Patram, you are Pavitram, you are the supreme, you are eternally pure. He starts praising him, right? And from the effect of a glimpse of God, of Krishna's greatness, right? But think about it, Krishna in the story. Not only do they have a relationship of friendship, but Krishna is actually serving Arjuna. He's serving him as his charioteer, right? So it's not so actually Krishna's God, Krishna tu Bhagavan Swayam, and Arjuna and everybody else is an eternal servant of God. So Arjuna should be serving Krishna, but Krishna is serving Arjuna because of their relationship. But that's a relationship. But because of that sweet relationship, think the humility that God submits to the will and relationship of the devotee. So this is considered sweeter in a certain sense, right? That's the Shakya, and then Vatsalya. Right, so Vatsalya is out of thinking of God as your child, right? And which is very interesting. We're just going through quickly to catch up a little bit because we're going to jump into it. But the idea is that a child, you don't pray to a child. You don't pray to your baby, please give me food. You give food to the baby. You don't pray to the baby, please give me shelter. You give shelter to a baby, right? You don't go, please protect me. You protect the baby. Right, so there's this zero selfishness. Maybe in human relationships it's more complicated. We all know the reality may be complicated, right? In human relationships, right? But still, you can say, but still, you can't. Oh, you don't go to infinite, even though we may have some expectations somehow mixed in, because we're not perfectly selfless, right? But still, you don't look at a baby and start praying. Please bless me. Maybe one of these days will bless me. There may be some selfishness mixed in, right? When you're old, you better take care of me, right? That's perhaps a dharmic expectation, right? But the baby is only a taker, right? And out of love, so that's considered even more intense, more intimate, right? And there's zero knowledge of God's glories, right? It's God's adorableness, His sweetness, His dependence, right? And so the classic example of this is that of Yashoda and Devaki to baby Krishna. And Yashoda and Devaki are two different examples, right? Because Devaki had both knowledge, feeling of him as her child, and knowledge of him as Bhagavan, right? But Yashoda had zero knowledge of him as Bhagavan. That was, we mentioned last time, that she prayed before his birth, that Vishnu be born as their child, but they would not know he's God, in order to intensify the loving relationships, right? To just think of it as a human, because of course, in the story of Krishna, all the cowherd boys, the gopis, the cowherd men, the cows, Yashoda, Nanda, everyone thought of him as a human child, right? But their love for him was 1,000 times more because he wasn't a normal child, right? So every child is God in one sense, but he is Bhagavan Swayam. He's directly God, right? So it's like we're all God, but not like that. He's literally God, right? In the absolute sense, in the full sense. So there's one story in the Bhagavatam where we just read. Eventually we'll pick up from our Bhagavatam stories, and this is where we're at. When Brahma steals the cows and the cowherd boys, right? Thinking he takes a trick and tries to steal for 1 year. So Krishna, no problem. He becomes the cowherd boys and he becomes the cows, right? And then the cowherd boys take the cows back home, and for 1 year he lives playing all the parts. Of course, he is playing all the parts. That's one of the teachings of the Bhagavatam. But in this story, the mother cows, their love for their calves increased 1,000-fold, right? And the mothers and fathers' love for the children because their children literally was Krishna in this particular sense, right? So it helps if the object of your devotion actually is God, right? But without any knowledge. So Sri Ramakrishna also said, we mentioned last time also that we think of God as all powerful, with 18 arms or 10 arms like Durga, right? But eventually, as our love increases, he becomes smaller and smaller and smaller, and he becomes a baby, an infant, right? And then Swamiji mentioned that we have in traditions that have the incarnation, we have this idea. We have baby Ramlala, Gopala, baby Krishna. We have, and even in Christianity, we have the infant Jesus and devotion to the infant Jesus. But Swamiji also mentioned, but we don't really, even in Christianity, we have the devotion for God as a child, right? There's many, like in my family, we have many miracles of the El Nino something, like one of the forms of God, of Jesus as a small. If you go into like a Mexican Catholic church, there'll be almost like a European doll dressed up like that. This is, it's Jesus. There's a whole story like that, but he's a young child, not exactly an infant, but a young child, right? And he becomes a form of Jesus that gets worshipped and intimate is the status of a child. But it's not exactly that of your child. We appreciate he's a child, and there's significance of that. But the idea, Swamiji said, but we don't really think of him as our child. He said this is missing in the West. But there's potential for it. And then Swamiji says that if we consider Jesus as our child, in the mother bhav, in this Vatsalya bhava, the reflection of that, a reverse of that, is that of thinking of God as mother may awaken. He said that's lacking in the West. Of course, this is our specialty at Kali Mandir, the reverse of the Vatsalya bhav. But anyway, so this is where we left off, kind of. There's one more. There is one more human representation of the divine idea of love. So this is 5 paragraphs from the back of this chapter, because I don't know how to read it, what page it's on. There is one more human representation of this divine idea of love. It is known as Madhura, the sweetheart relationship, and is the highest of all such relationships. It is indeed based on the highest manifestation of love in this world, and this love is also the strongest known to man. What love shakes the whole nature of man? What love runs through every particle of his being, makes him mad, makes him forget his own nature, transforms him, makes him either a god or a demon, as does the love between a man and a woman. In this sweet representation of divine love, God is our husband. We are all women. There are no men in this world. There is but one man, and that is he, our beloved. And all love which man gives to woman, or woman to man, has here to be given to the Lord. This is Madhurya Bhav. That of, we would say, Madhura means sweet, but it means romantic love, right? And we have to be careful because this is there's a reason that in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the story of the Rasa Leela is deep in the 10th skanda. And the 10th skanda is towards the very, and there's many, probably more than 10,000 verses before you mention Krishna, right? And first you mentioned baby Krishna, so it'll take a while before you get to this Rasa Leela and the gopis and like this. And the traditional reason for that, and this is what we've done, that we've been reading, we're finally getting there, but it's taken, 11 years, 9 years? I don't know how long you've been reading Bhagavatam. Remember? seems a long time, probably at least 9 years, maybe more. I think I may have been saying 9 years for 3-4 years, so maybe 11 years. I'm not quite sure. I'm not very good at time. So I look to him. He's the keeper of our history, our calendar. So it's said, it's tradition that you don't read and meditate upon the Leela of Krishna until you've read and understood the first 9 skandhas of the Bhagavatam. And a lot is covered, and lots of stories, and lots of avatars, right? Lots of rishis, and in all these stories, everything comes to a screeching stop, and long discussions about the difference between matter and spirit are given again and again. The Sankhya type philosophy, again and again and again. In every rishi's mouth, even when Krishna is being born, right? The gods show up and start praying, and they start talking about the difference between spirit and matter. I mean, it's a big important part, because we think we're the body and we think this world is real. And seen with that view, if you look at Krishna Lila, you'll misunderstand everything. And think, oh, it's just like me. It's great. Right? This is awesome. This is the best religion ever. Right? Where what's being discussed is so much more refined. We're not anywhere. I mean, the discussions and the experiences and the Leelas of the gopis and the gopas with Krishna, they're not normal human beings. And then the sages tell us that they're also told in a metaphoric language, right? And what's the most intense metaphoric language is that of romance. So it's told in the metaphor of romance, and so as we shouldn't misunderstand. We have to understand. Yeah, that's why it's taught very systematically. So many things are taught before Krishna is mentioned, before Gopi is mentioned, right? But Madhurya, but the relationship. So to Sri Ramakrishna, you don't have that. Where to you Krishna is a name, an ache in the heart, you know? Do you have it? That's not available? Is it on your iPad or something? If you can get that, be good. It's good to read from Ramakrishna in the middle of this. It's a very important point. So, there's 2 ways of looking at this a little. There's many ways to look at it, but there's 2 main ways we can think of it. Yesterday we were outside reading, right? Was that today or yesterday? Yesterday. We were reading, there's a book called the Shri Ramakrishna Leela Prasanga, the great master, or Ramakrishna's divine play. And it talks about Sri Ramakrishna's Madhura Leela. This is when he went through these different stages, these different sadhanas, including the doubt of the lover to God, and so there's an attempt, because how do you explain such? I mean, Sri Ramakrishna took things. He didn't. I can't say he took them to extreme. He took them very seriously. Everything was absolute, right? So he went to the extreme of he dressed in women's clothing when he thought of Krishna as God as his husband. Her husband, right? He lost. Actually, he said that there was nobody thought he was a man during this period of sadhana, right? His mannerisms, he says there's not one vritti of maleness was left in him, right? Because there's only one man, that was God, right? And so to modern people, and then later, the people who are translating and writing these books, they're Vedantic monks, right? Where in a Vedantic sannyasis, where does, thinking yourself, dressing as a woman and loving God in this way, where did that fit in? Right? So he gives a little bit of a Vedantic, and he says psychological Vedantic. It still makes sense within Vedanta. We take this human relationship and we use it, and it is many different things. And Swamiji also, even the title of this is the human representations of divine love. Right? So we have these human relationships, and so when the idea that we can use these very human relationships, the natural feelings we have, use them towards God, the actual goal of our devotion, and then have that generate our experience. But there's another side, is actually God is the only man. He is Purusha. Everything else is Prakriti, right? So it's not that we can think of God this way and to try to develop a relationship, because we know a little bit out like it is. Humans, we have, these emotions and feelings, and they awaken in young age, and they last our whole life. We're looking for a mate and for romance and for partnership, and then the intensity of that, and breakups, and all the emotional. We have that, so we can put that towards God? Or do we have that because that's real? That's our real relationship. Found it kind of? Let's see, you're good. Took me a few seconds before I get. Thank you very much. Right, so so we have to be. So both can be. We have these human relationships, but we're not putting them on the right thing. We can take that intensity of our love for a child, our love for our friend, our love for our sweetheart and our husband or our lover, and use that and put God as the center, the focus of that. Use it as fuel, or we can discover that is the truth. We're uncovering our real nature, right? There's a interesting scene in I think Jiva Goswami, the great disciple of Lord Chaitanya. I think one of the Goswami, I'm pretty sure it's Jiva Goswami. Correct if I come. In Vrindavan, Mirabai, they're contemporaries, not exact contemporaries. So Mirabai, if we were to believe the story, Mirabai, during her time in Vrindavan, the great female mystic, it was at the end of Jiva Goswami's life. And Jiva Goswami, although we know their inner attitude of the Goswamis, it's given in some hymns, that although there were very strict sannyasis counting how many times they bow, how many times what their pujas, they're very strict, regimented, but inside they had this madhurya bhav. They said that while they're sitting there counting very strictly, being super austere and regimented, their inner world was, oh Krishna, where are you? Why have you hidden? Behind which tree are you living? They had this inner mood of this gopi bhava, running, chasing for Krishna, but they're externally very austere. They're showing themselves as perfect sannyasis. And so, hearing about him, this great living saint, perfected saint and disciple, direct disciple of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Mirabai went to go see him. But she was told by his attendants, Maharaj is a sannyasi, he doesn't talk to women. Right? That's a natural rule. He's in that regimented sannyasi mode. Right? And but she was like, oh, there's more than one man here? Right? It's like in Vrindavan, only one man's here, and that's Krishna. We're all women. Right? So the story goes, when this got back to Jiva Goswami, he allowed her to come see, right? If the story is correct, The story is told differently from the two sides. The story told from the Mirabai side in the Mirabai literature, right? But the thing is the truth is that Krishna is the only male. His Purushottama, the supreme person, right? And all of us are his Shaktis. We're all feminine. This is that view, right? And therefore, awakening of this loving towards the center, our love for Krishna or for the soul or for the soul of the universe, the heart of the universe, is not just using our human nature. It's the essence of it's the source of our human nature, right? These relationships are real. This is our real relationship, and because we find ourselves in the material body, in the material world, confused and thinking we're the body and thinking other people are bodies and thinking the world is real and taking the enjoyments and protection and development of the body and its relationships to be the goal of life, right? We take this pure thing and we try to find it where we can. We're not superimposing human relationships on the divine. We're superimposing our divine relationship on humans, right? So that's a very different perspective, right? So this is, I don't know where Swami is going to come down exactly on this, but these are two big views, and maybe both of them are true. We can, at the psychological technique, we take our love we have for our normal relationship we know something about and put them on God. It becomes a fuel. But I think it works because it's true. There is only one center of everything, and everything's related to him. Right. Continuing. What love shakes the whole nature of man? What love runs through every particle of his being, makes him mad, makes him forget his own nature, transforms him, makes him either a god or a demon, as does the love between man and woman. In this sweet representation of divine love, God is our husband. We are all women. There are no men in this world. There is but one man, this is all capital, and that is he, our beloved. All that love which man gives to woman and woman to man, has here to be given to the Lord. All the different kinds of love which we see in the world, and which we are more or less merely playing, have God as their one goal. But unfortunately, man does not know the infinite ocean into which this mighty river of love is constantly flowing. And so foolishly, he often tries to direct it to little dolls of human beings. The love that's meant is the river is rushing towards the ocean. Not knowing that, we try to take that force and put it on little dolls. This is Swami's poetic language, dramatic, strong language. The tremendous love for the child that is in human nature is not for the little doll of a child. If you bestow it blindly and exclusively on the child, you will suffer the consequences. But through such suffering will come an awakening by which you are sure to find out that the love which is in you, if it is given to any human being, would sooner or later bring pain and sorrow as a result. Our love must therefore be given to the highest one, who never dies and never changes. To him in the ocean, the one who never changes. To him in the ocean of whose love there is neither ebb nor flow. Love must reach its right destination. It must go unto him who is really the infinite ocean of love. All rivers flow into the ocean. Even the drops of water coming down from the mountainside cannot stop its course after reaching a brook or a river, however big. At last, even that drop somehow does find its way to the ocean. God is the one goal of all our passions and emotions. That's a great simple definition. He's the goal of all of our passions and emotions. Right? And so that the mistake is we don't know that, and we give we focus our passions and emotions on things that aren't God. Of course, not everything is God. That's why we get some joy from it. Right? We're milking as much as we can, naturally. And Sri Ramakrishna, Swamiji also says that when we know God and we worship God, only then can we really love others. It's not that we shouldn't love others. Swami was a great lover of humanity, obviously, right? And he had tremendous and powerful personal relationships, but it was based upon this very overwhelming knowledge that the one he loves is actually God. He saw God in humans. We worship humans as if they were God, right? So Swamiji worshiped God, humans as God, because they are God. There's a difference. Seems so similar, but there's a big difference. God is the one goal of all our passions and emotions. If you want to be angry with him. Chide your beloved, chide your friend. Who else can you safely chide? Right? If I start arguing with you, maybe you'll punch me. More likely you'll leave, and then everything will be finished, right? But God, you can argue with all you want, right? What happens, right? Actually, by this, relationship develops. There's a devotee here. We half joking with him that we hadn't seen him in a long time, some years, and then he showed up. He says, "We haven't seen you in a long time. I'm fighting with Ma." Right? It's like I'm fighting with Ma. Right? I'm angry with her. I'm fighting with her. I haven't come to see her until she fixes this. There's still negotiations are still going on. The fight is still going on. So our joking, he says, we know all the story. Today it's Navaratri. People read the Chandi. We know the Chandi. We know the Bhagavatam. We know Mahabharata. There's never been a time when somebody fights God and wins. Right? God always wins. Right? But there is times when God fights and wins. Right? In the story, in one sense, God's always going to win. But sometimes God wants us to fight. Right? And there's many songs. Ram Prasad has many of these. Many of his songs his arguments was God. Right? He says, "What type of mother are you?" Right? Let the whole world's how embarrassed I am of you behaving like this, ignoring your helpless child while you're running around naked on the battlefield, and I'm sitting here with nothing. You're completely ignoring me. All these, we know it seems very shocking because we're not used to this relationship. But this relationship is called Bhakti Yoga, right? If you could be angry with God. If you're going to be, anyway, continue. Whom else can you safely chide? Mortal man will not patiently put up with your anger. There will be a reaction. If you are angry with me, I am sure to react quickly, because I cannot patiently put up with your anger. Say unto the beloved, why do you not come to me? Why do you leave me alone? Where is there any enjoyment but in him? What enjoyment can there be in this little clouds of earth? It is the crystallized essence of infinite enjoyment that we have to seek, and that is in God. Let all our passions and emotions go unto Him. They are meant for Him. For if they miss their mark and go lower, they become vile. That's a very interesting statement. They're meant for Him if they miss their mark and they go lower. You see, we have no commentary necessary. We can find how this easily happens. Right. Swami Shivananda says, better to aim at lions and miss than aim at jackals and hit them. Right? Aim high, make it the highest, They are meant for Him. If they miss their mark and go lower, they become vile. When they go straight to the mark, to the Lord, even the lowest of them becomes transfigured. The highest love, when it misses, it's not towards God, becomes polluted, and the most degraded emotion, if given to God, becomes purified and transformed. All the energies of the human in the Bhagavatam is one thing is that I don't remember the verse. It's in I gave a little commentary in my little booklet, but it says that whatever any connection to God is transformative because He says He's Subhadra. Right here it means Subhadra. He's the essence of us. He's the shining essence of auspiciousness. Everything that touches Him becomes transformed. Right. High things become transcendental, and low things become high things. That's the nature. Everything becomes transformed. All loves, we're doing good. All loves and all passions of the human heart must go to God. He is the beloved. Whom else can this heart love? He is the most beautiful, the most sublime. He is beauty itself, sublimity itself. In our classes on the Kali Sahasranam, we talk a lot about this. We say, oh, Ma, one of her names is Sundari. She's beautiful. Right, or she's Bhairavi, she's angry, right? You can see there's different lila like that, but actually that's using the language of duality. Actually, we're describing these names of her. They're describing the non-dual reality, right? So we say she's angry. Actually, she's anger. To say she's beautiful is not right. She's beauty. Because we separate and say, oh, she's beautiful. Oh, how beautiful! She's beauty. Everything's beauty because of her. You can't. Or to say a God exists. God doesn't exist. That's a way of thinking. God's existence. Where she is the thing itself. All the inequalities we give to it are because we have some separation. Like that says, so He's the most beautiful, she's the most beautiful, the most sublime, because He's beauty, sublimity itself. Who in this universe is more beautiful than He? Who in this universe is more fit to be the husband than He? Who in this universe is more fit to be loved than He? So let Him be the husband, let Him be the beloved. So in this Vaishnava Tantra, there's these beautiful bhavas of people seeing God as, okay, they can be there. Seeing God as their husband, as their lover. But also in Christianity we have this. There's the wedding mysticism, marriage mysticism in Christianity. Very often, if they want to be out, it's okay. It's okay, whatever is easier. But that's okay. So many nuns also, when you enter the convent in the Catholic Church, you have to give a dowry when you marry somebody, and then you actually get married. There's a ceremony is that of marriage to Jesus. You become the bride of Jesus. So there's the tradition. It hasn't been as dramatically developed and enacted as in Vaishnavism, but the same principles are there. Often it so happens that divine lovers who sing of this divine love accept the language of human love in all its aspects as adequate to describe it. Fools do not understand this. They never will. They look at it with the physical eye. They do not understand the mad throes of this spiritual love. How can they? Oh, for one kiss of thy lips, beloved, one who has been kissed by thee, his thirst for thee increases forever. All his sorrows vanish, and he forgets all things except thee alone. The typical line of such love poetry, right? After aspire after that kiss of the beloved, that touch of his lips that makes the bhakta mad, which makes the man a god. To him who has been blessed with such a kiss, the whole of nature changes, worlds vanish, suns and moons die out, and the universe itself melts away into that one infinite ocean of love. This is the perfection of the madness of love. So Swamiji, because he's speaking to a Western audience that doesn't have much background in these things, so he's being careful. So he says Madhurya is that of husband, right? And so in the classic example of we told of Mirabai, the young child. So the story, the life story goes, was she was a devotee of Krishna and had a little doll of Krishna. But one day, as her mom was combing her hair on the balcony of the palace, and there was a wedding procession, right? And she told, she asked her mother, "Oh, who am I going to marry? Who's my husband?" Right? And her mom, out of sweetness, "Oh, Krishna's your husband." Right? This little statue of her play, and she said, "Oh, okay." And so from that moment on, she was married to Krishna, her Giridhari, right? So she had that mood of Krishna is my husband, right? I'm married to Krishna, and therefore when she was married, actually, it was a huge problem, right? Because she refused to accept, and she only had one husband, definitely not the local king or local prince, right? Krishna was her husband. So eventually she was tormented and eventually left, and we have the beautiful songs and her life story from that. But she was married to Krishna. I'm just thinking, as I'm telling the story, another thing flashed in my mind. When little Holy Mother, as a young girl, right, was also in the arms of her mother, maybe not this time at a public function, and I've been to that spot where it has happened, I think in Sihor, near Hridori's village, not far from her village. And she was 3 years old, maybe, just a little tiny girl, and her mother's, and a wedding party goes by. Same type of wedding, maybe the same wedding party, maybe the same characters reincarnated for the same Leela, right? And she asked, "Who am I going to marry?" No, this time it switched. The mother asks, "Who are you going to marry?" Right? First, the little girl, Mirabai, asked the mother, "Who am I going to marry?" She says, "Krishna." But this time the mother or the other aunties and cousins are joking, kind of teasing a little, "We do like, who's going to be your husband?" And in that crowd, Sri Ramakrishna was also there as a young man, probably 17, 18 years old, something like this, And she points to him. Right? Interesting. She also married God, literally, right? She had this relationship also. Oh yeah, and then another recently we're thinking about Sri Ramakrishna had a great disciple, woman disciple named Gauriananda Puri, sannyasini, very strong, wonderful, dynamic, amazing story. And she had her niece was her successor. Her niece was named Durga Puri Ma. And Durga Ma, so Gauri Ma and Holy Mother took her to, she was initiated when she was 5 years old by Holy Mother, right? So it's not a normal thing. And then they took her to Puri and had her legally married, right, with full rights. And then nowadays it's probably not as easy to do, but at that time this was, if you knew the right people and you could get this up. So the girl was legally married to Lord Jagannath in Puri, with full wedding rights, right? So that was her mood, is that I'm the bride of Jagannath, of Krishna. That was her bhava, right? Then she became a little old, and the family tolerated, because Gaurima was very powerful, right? Very respected and very, very strong. And so when I'm taking this girl, and took her to Holy Mother like that. So the family, couldn't go against her. She was a very respected and powerful and strong woman. But then but eventually, it comes. The parents are thinking, no, now she's almost 9. We got to get her married. It's a little bit different time, or 10 or 12, 10 like that. And so we need to get her married, right? And Gaurima was an intense renunciant, so she had a very strong response, right? And he said, how is it? She's already been married to Jagannath. You allowed it. No, we didn't allow it. You did it. We couldn't fight you, right? It would have been called scandal in the family. We fought you. It's like, and that's symbolic, not actual, right? Nobody can marry a statue. Nobody can marry God, right? And Gaurima, what is it? You want her to cheat on her husband? To become very, and then Gaurima told the little girl, you see, your parents, right? They don't love Jagannath. right? Very, very, right? They don't, think about that. They don't accept your husband. This is a big problem in a family. Imagine you have a love marriage and the family wants to arrange a different marriage, right? It's going to cause a lot of problems, So eventually, Holy Mother, Durga Ma asked Holy Mother to initiate this girl into sannyas at 11. So she was initiated the full sannyasini at 11 years old by Holy Mother herself. Right, but Holy Mother said, actually Holy Mother agreed, but Shardananda, he says she's underage, we're going to get in trouble. This is, nowadays it'd be a lawsuit and, the whole thing, right? He says she needs permission of her parents, right? But the parents had already chosen her husband, from a good family, this type of thing, right? But they had they finally, out of lots of discussion and argument, the father said, I will give my permission if we eat together, right? This is the meaning that as father and daughter, right? But then the little Durga Ma was such a strong personality also. He says, I can't eat with him. He's a worldly person who doesn't love Jagannath. So that became another problem. You can see that when intense emotions come up, it's not an easy life, right? And so anyways, eventually she agreed. But she wouldn't eat from the same plate of him. There's which is what he wanted. But eventually he gave permission, and she took sannyas. He became strong. But actually, she'd come. I know we know somebody who knew a disciple of her, and she'd come all the time to Allahabad. So she'd walk. I know she'd walk probably right in front of our ashram, because just down the street there's a very old Bengali-run Jagannath temple. Very crude. The statues are probably a couple hundred years old. They're not like a fancy, nice statue like ISKCON statues. There's a very strange, Jagannath itself is a crude, not crude, it's so beautiful, but it's not supposed to represent an unfinished form of Krishna. But this is really a very primitive-looking, tribal-looking form of Krishna. But she'd go there because she'd go there because she had to go visit her husband. Her whole life, on their wedding night, she'd lock herself in her room, because that was her time to be with her husband on the anniversary of the wedding. Her whole life, she had this very strong sannyasini, but her inner mood that of marriage. But so the idea of I brought this up is that idea of God as your husband is there for women. But Madhurya Bhav is not even that, right? Swamiji leaves it there because of the audience, right? It's a westernized audience, right? It's actually that of not of the husband. The highest form of Madhurya Bhav is that of a lover, meaning an illicit lover, a paramour, I guess you'd call it. Right, that the word? Paramour. Paramour, parlor or something. Anyway, my words aren't always right. Paramour, right? Because even with a husband and wife relationship, that also it's intense enough, but it's not. Theoretically, you want a peaceful, harmonious married life. Still, there's some passions and some disappointments and disagreements and ecstasies and all kinds of things mixed in, right, within it. But the idea that God is not our husband. He's our illicit lover, right? So that's a whole other thing, because that's so intense. It's not glorifying this relationship in human society. This relationship's not glorified, right? It destroys families. It's the worst thing that could happen in an established family. But spiritually, it's the best representative. It's somewhere you cannot, where what happens in the stories, somebody is serving their husband, right? But actually they're thinking of their lover, where they're going to meet, right? They're taking care of their children, taking their children to school, but they're thinking, when I drop them off, maybe I can meet my lover. This is that type of thing. But the idea of it is to make it that super intense idea of God, right? That he's but isn't that the way it is? Actually, if we're going to live in this world, right, we should live like this, right, where we can do everything, but we're thinking about our lover, right? We never forget. This is how you think of God at all times, right? Otherwise, we love God, yes, we're trying to serve God, but this is a different thing. No matter what we do, we may have to do everything we need to do, but our mind's somewhere else. Our mind's always with him, or always with her, right? So it's considered 1,000 times more intense than marital relationship, right? And so this is a relationship the gopis had in the stories, right? So you see, it's like so the question is, well, the gopis were immoral in the stories, right? They were married and had children, and then Krishna was their lover, right? There's all kinds of ways to justify it, right? There's one verse in the Gita. There's one verse in the Bhagavatam. It says, what's the word for dream? Swapna. There's a word. It's hidden in a verse. That maybe the whole thing was a dream. Who knows what? I mean, who knows what was in the mind of the gopis? We don't know, right? There's a very mysterious, and some ancient commentators have focused on that. Others say, no, actually Krishna is everyone's husband, but actually he literally is their husband. Remember I told you Brahma stole the cows and the boys during that time, and Krishna became all the cowherd boys, right? So the story goes, during that year, that was a good year for marriage, and all the cowherd boys and cowherd girls got married, and happened to be Krishna, each one of them, right? And so in the story, so this is one. There's Hanuman Prasad Padar mentions this, right, in his Heart of a Gopi book, I think, right? Not Heart of the Gopi. Anyways, it's not Heart of Gopi; it's a different book, but also an incredible. If you ever read Heart of the Gopi, read Heart of a Gopi. That's the best. That book is. What's her name? It's not an easy book to find nowadays. If you can find it, it's a small little. Takes a couple of days to read. That's the best book on this Madhurya Bhav, written by a Muslim lady who was a disciple of Gandhi in the Gandhi movement, right? And then one time she met Anandamoy Ma. No, somebody, I think it may have been Abbot George. Yes, Abbot George was reading this book, right, in front of Anandamoy Ma, and she saw it. The person who wrote this was there. In other words, that she was a gopi. That's why she knew the mood. It's a fictitious book, but it's maybe not fictitious. It's incredible. The Bhava is spectacular. It's the best book I've read on this Madhurya Bhava, Heart of the Gopi. But anyways, so during this year when Krishna was playing a part of all the gopas, right? All the gopis married him. So later, when they went to Krishna and they left their husband, they were not cheating on Krishna. He's their husband. Actually, but in that way of interpreting the story, that means when they're with their husband, they're cheating on Krishna, right? Which is the point is that our love is meant to go to God, right? So who's the real husband? Who's the real focus, right? So we may have to. The situation is we're forced by our family, or forced by our desires, or forced by our culture, or forced by our biology, right? To be part and have relationships with this world. But our real lover, our real child, our real friend, our real master is God, right? The situation may force us something different. And so we do the best we can in the situation. We try to be loving, wonderful, but we know our real lover our real goal is Krishna, or is God. This is Madhurya Bhav. Okay, I have to read fast. But I'm going to finish Bhakti Yoga tonight. And you guys are going to have to tolerate. The true lover does not rest even there. Even the love of husband to, I guess he does go far. See, like Swamiji speaking to a common audience. He doesn't go, he does go. I just should have read a little. It's been a while since I've read it, the whole thing in one sitting. The Bhakta takes up also the idea of the illegitimate love. I'm sorry, okay. The true spiritual does not rest even there. Even the love for husband and wife is not mad enough for him. The Bhakta takes also the idea of the illegitimate love because it is so strong. The impropriety of it is not at all the thing that they have in view. The nature of this love is that the more obstructions there is to its free play, the more passionate it becomes. That's an interesting thing. The more obstacles, the more powerful it becomes. Right? The love between husband and wife is smooth. There are no obstructions there. Yeah, some obstructions. So I hear. Limited experience. So the Bhakta's husband. So the Bhakta takes up the idea of a girl who is in love with a man, and her mother or father or her husband objects to that love. And the more anybody obstructs the course of her love, the more her love tends to grow in strength. Human language cannot describe how madly the ever-blessed gopis loved Krishna in the groves of Vrindavan, groves of Vrinda. How at the sound of his flute they rushed out to meet him, forgetting everything, forgetting this world and its ties, its duties, its joys, and its sorrows. This is probably a good place to read the summary. So Swami Thakur, at one point, he reads, he's talking about this type of love, and he sings a song to maybe Kamalakanta. Is Kamalakanta coming tonight?
He said he was.
Okay, so if he comes, he can sing that song. He knows that song, right? Does he? Maybe not. Yeah. Well, we can ask Kamalakanta to learn the songs, and next time we can sing it. We can hear the actual song. But this is Sri Ramakrishna is talking to the Brahma Samaj. No,
On the ship, on boat.
is it?
Boat.
So he's in he's in a ship full of was Keshav Sen, Vijay Krishna Goswami, and all these Brahma Samaj leaders, right? And the thing about the Brahma Samaj, they don't believe this Krishna business, right? This is a moral, the story of a moral person with his immoral lovers. If it's true, it's just bad. It shouldn't be shunned. It should be shunned, not worshipped for sure, right? But Sri Ramakrishna goes into ecstatic talking about this love, and then he says he sings this song. The flute has sounded there in the forest. I cannot help go. This is Radha speaking, no? Is it? Radha.
It switches to this is Radha.
So Radha is saying, when he heard Krishna's flute, Radha went running, right? So he's talking, the flute has sounded there in the forest. I cannot help but go. Shyama, Krishna, is standing on the path. Tell me, are you coming or not? Your Sham is just a word among words. My Sham is an ache is an ache deep within. For you the flute plays only in your ears. The flute plays for me within my heart. Shama's flute is playing. Come out, O Rai. Rai is like darling Radha. Come out, O Rai. This is what the flute is calling. Without you, the grove has no beauty at all. Singing this song with eyes full of tears, Thakur, Sri Ramakrishna, said to Keshav and the other devotees, believe in Radha Krishna or don't believe at all. Right? Believe in Radha Krishna or don't believe in them. Because he knows they don't believe in them. Right? It's not their tradition. Right? It says, just accept this attraction. Right? Try to do whatever develops this kind of yearning for God. Only if you have yearning can she be attained. Can he be attained? That's parts in bold, right? So the point of the story is that we need to have the yearning that Radha and the gopis had for Krishna. And either they had it, it's a real story, or it's whatever, maybe some fictitious story that came down to us by emotionally unstable Bengali, whatever you can give it as disrespectful or as awesomely respectful a thing. But this attraction for God, the soul's attraction to God, that is required. Without this attraction, you won't realize God. Right? Only if you have this yearning can she be attained. Right? And the last sentence here, and then I'll read Swamiji's conclusion. Man, oh man, you speak of divine love, and at the same time you are able to attend all the vanities of this world. Are you sincere? Where Rama is, there is no room for any desire. Where desire is, there is no room for Rama. These never coexist. Like light and darkness, they are never together. So this is one point. Is actually, so this is not about physical lust. This relationship with between Radha and Krishna, because actually he's saying where actually he's playing. This is Thakur would also say this. He says where Swamiji, because people wouldn't get the reference, so he spells it out. Where Rama is, there's no desire. Where desire, there's no. Actually, he uses, I think it's Shama. Where Shama, there's no Rama. Right? Or Kama, no Shama. What is it? Do you remember the? Shama. So Shama here means attraction for the opposite sex. It's a code. Right? So where lust is, there's no Rama. Where Rama, there's no. So even though it's using the language of lust, the language of desire, it's not physical desire. Right? We have to be careful about these things. Right? Swami Chaitanya jokes. He says modern people we think we're Krishna, right? And he says that, and he's quoting Thakur or quoting Swamiji, I forget, but that point is nice. He said we've become very good at stealing the clothes of the gopis, right? That Krishna does. He stole the clothes of the gopis, right? Right. The modern, but we can't lift Govardhan Hill, right? So he's still. The thing is that the story can't be taken. It's literal, but not human. Because the one that did this, that we're thinking, people shouldn't have it. Who is he? He lifted a hill for 7 days with his pinky, right? As a little child, right? So this is not normal. Krishna tu Bhagavan Swayam. So the conclusion, the last couple paragraphs of the Bhakti Yoga book. When this highest ideal of love is reached, philosophy is thrown away. Great. When the highest ideal of love is reached, philosophy is thrown away. Who will then care for it? Freedom, salvation, nirvana, all are thrown away. Who cares to become free while in the enjoyment of divine love? Lord, I do not want wealth or friends or beauty or learning or even freedom. Let me be born again and again, and be thou ever my love. Be thou ever and ever my love. He's paraphrasing the verse from the Shashtakam. Lord, I don't desire, mine is a prayer for wealth or retinue, the playthings of lust, nor the toys of fame. As many times as I may be reborn, grant me, O Lord, a steadfast love for thee. Swami Prabhupananda's translation of this verse from the Chaitanya's Shashtakam. Mine is no prayer for wealth or retinue, means followers, reputation, money, power, the playthings of lust, right? Any amount of, or the toys of fame. But birth after birth, let me simply love you. I want this love. You be my lover for all time. What to speak of other things. Be thou ever and ever my love. Who cares to become sugar, says the Bhakta. I want to taste sugar. The Bhakta is Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna is the perfect example of a Bhakta. Sri Ramakrishna said this again and again. I don't want to be sugar. I want to taste sugar. Right? Sugar, we may be sugar, but if you're sugar, you can't taste sugar. Sugar is glorious and sweetness. Right? So a lover, even God can't taste sugar. Even God can't taste the bliss of God. Only a lover can taste the bliss of God. So the position of lover is higher than God. This is what the idea of this is. Who will then desire to become free and one with God? I may know that I am Him, but I am He. Yet I will take myself away from Him to become different, so that I may enjoy the beloved. This is that even this idea of aham brahmasmi. I may be actually ontologically, in reality, God. Not God in the normal sense, but Brahman, right? But wanting that slight separation, you can enjoy bliss, enjoy love, right? So Thakur said that these are village scenes and sentiments that may not. I mean, we can challenge in a modern way, but he says that a married woman, using this metaphor, the married woman has such intimate relationship with her husband, that's fine. But sometime from a distance, she'll peek at him. There's still some joy of seeing somebody from a slight distance. There's some romance in that, right? So that even God separates and becomes many for this relationship, this intense relationship. Mm-hmm. That is what the Bhakta says. Love for love's sake is his highest enjoyment. Who would not be bound hand and foot 1,000 times over to enjoy the beloved? Let us be bound if we can enjoy. No Bhakta cares for anything except to love and be loved. His motiveless love is like the tide rushing up the river. The lover goes up the river against the current. The world calls him mad. I know one whom the world used to call mad. And this was his answer. Of course, the one who the world called mad was Sri Ramakrishna. Swamiji almost never mentions Sri Ramakrishna's name, but he'd hint. I knew such a person. I've seen such men. He's always referring to his master, right? I knew, The world called him mad. I know one whom the world used to call mad, and this was his answer. My friends, the whole world is a lunatic asylum. Some are mad after worldly love, some after name, some after fame, some after money, some after salvation and going to heaven. Right? In this big lunatic assignment, I am also mad. I am mad after God. If you are mad after money, I am mad after God. You are mad, so am I. I think my madness is after all the best. Thakur's words. The true Bhakta's love is the burning madness before which everything else vanishes for him. The whole universe is to him full of love and love alone. That is how it seems to the lover. So when a man has this love for him, in him, he becomes eternally blessed, eternally happy. He has drawn near to God, and he has thrown off all those vain desires with which he was filled before. And with his desires, selfishness has vanished. Selfishness has vanished. The blessed madness of divine love alone can cure forever the disease of the world that is in us. We all have to become as dualists. We all have to begin as dualists in the religion of love. God is to us separate, a separate being, and we feel ourselves to be separate beings also. Love then comes between, and man begins to approach God. And God also comes nearer and nearer to man. Man takes up the various relationships of life, such as father, mother, son, friend, master, lover, and projects him on his ideal of love, on his God. To him, God exists as all these. And the last point of his progress is reached when he feels that he has become absolutely merged in the object of his worship. We all begin with love for ourselves, and the unfair claims of the little self makes even love selfish. And the unfair claims of the little self makes even love selfish. Love means unselfish, but it makes even love selfish. At last, however, comes the full blaze of light, in which this little self is seen to have become one with the infinite. Man himself is transfigured in the presence of this light of love, and he realizes at last the beautiful and inspiring truth that love, the lover, and the beloved are one. Hari Om Tat Sat. Thus ends Bhakti Yoga of Swami Vivekananda. Complete works. And we did good. We finished, finally. On this holy day, it's a very auspicious day of Ashtami during Vashant Navaratri. Any questions or comments? Or recitations of love poetry? Yes.
I thought that when you were mentioning before about the idea of when that love, that illicit love, so to speak, or I guess, sometimes in my family, or living here in the West, sometimes people don't understand what I do here.
Yes.
So I'm thinking about it and enjoying that fact that it's almost clandestine.
There's something to it.
Tiny glimpse of
even just the excitement of maybe not the gopis to Krishna level, right? But even you can see it does intensify.
I'm sitting around a dinner table with my family and I'm thinking about being here or something. And you get a little feel. Kind of interesting.
So sometimes that can become a struggle, and then all of a sudden we think we means we're there, but we want to be here, and then we create this problem, right? That sometimes that happens in many devotees, where they have two, that they make a distinction between. But of course, devotion is based upon this distinction of wanting to find God and God alone, and frustrated otherwise. But Sri Ramakrishna gave the example of a toothache as another thing. You can give the example of a lover with a illicit lover, or a toothache. That also works. Anything works. Actually, you can think of anything. You can take it, use it to understand these things. It's just human language understands something beyond human language. And that with a toothache, no matter what you do, you have to do it. When you have a toothache, you have a toothache, right? And you do everything. You go to work. Yeah, you have to go to work. You got to feed your kids. You got to do everything, right? But you don't forget the toothache. It's impossible, right? Even if you try, but you can't. And that's the thing. Sometimes I know, one of our devotees, he made a great comment one time. He says, it's like our problem is not remembering God; it's forgetting God. Sometimes we want to forget God but we can't. That's the problem, right? It's like there's other things to be done, or other things want to be done. But how do you? But toothache doesn't go away. We have an ache in the heart. The thing, to us, Krishna is only a name. To her, he's an ache in the heart, an ache within. You can't forget it, right? So that's a great blessing that we can't forget it. But the problem is that in the beginning we forget it, right? Right? Sri Ramakrishna said that the child, the mother, the Divine Mother herself, she is like a earthly mother. When she gives some toy to the child and dangles some plastic toy, and you play with this a little bit, and the child's happy. Right? Actually, the child's nature is to want to, but eventually it's happy. And the mother go, oh, good, I can go do stuff. Or I go clean the house and do like this and visit my friends or cook dinner, whatever the mother's doing. But then eventually, and then the kid gets a little restless. So, get here, play with this. Well, toy after toy to keep the child slightly occupied, right? But at a certain point, like you can give whatever you want. The kid's not going to be happy; he just cries, right? Because the only thing will make it happy is to be in its mother's arms or mother's lap. That's the other example Thakur gave, right? That the things that make us forget, sometimes at a certain point we can't forget. Only ma will make us happy. Only mother's embrace or only lover's embrace will make us happy. But we forget. And one sadhu I met on the beach many years ago in Venice, named it's bad, I'm forgetting his name. Very interesting sadhu, elderly sannyasi. Just met him on the beach, walking on the boardwalk, right? It's bad that I forget. Anyway, maybe I'll remember his name. But he says, actually, when we have our karmas, we have our duties, we have reasons we're born on earth. And so we have to do that stuff. We have our families, we have our jobs, we have relationships. Appropriate. Nothing. He's not against anything. But there's a reason we came here, right? There's a reason we were born, right? There's a reason we're in a human body, right? He says, and the way his language is, we're here to wake up. That's his language, right? Or we in the devotion line, we're here to love God or realize, whatever language we use. He says, and you see when a child's first born, you can see it in their eyes. They remember what they came for. But then slowly, he says, the parents start dangling toys in front of it. And then slowly that cloud comes over their eyes and they forgot why they came. We forgot the real object, right? And so that's a problem, but eventually, but a child can never be fully satisfied. We can never. The problem is we think we cry, we try to enjoy, and then we cry, but we don't know what we're crying for. That's the problem. Crying for the. Anyways, I think we'll get ready for Arati. Thank you for your kind attention, your tolerance during these many months of reading Bhakti Yoga. I think next week, God willing, we'll probably go back. We were reading for a long time. We're going between the Bhagavatam and the Kali Sahasranama. We'll probably continue that pattern of these two original texts. We took a little break to get my brain juiced up again. I was running into some stumbling blocks in translation and comment and thinking about it. So Swamiji always is good to he's a good brain scrub, get everything moving shiny again. Amen. Jai Thakur. Oops. Can you do the stop and the publish?